Hello and welcome to Biography Lens with me, Annie. And in today's episode, we are going to look at the final excerpts from Betrayal. And at the end, I'll give the book my Biography Lens score based on three criteria, being research, balance, and storytelling. Because when we read a biography, the important question arises, and that is what actually makes a biography, what makes a biography good, right? And so for purposes of this discussion, I like to look at these three elements, research being how well documented and investigated the work appears to be, balance being whether the subject is presented with multiple perspectives, and then the on storytelling, it basically speaks to the author's ability to create compelling narrative. And at the end of the episode, I'll share my own provisional rating for Betrayal based on these three elements. And I'd love to hear yours in the comments as well. Now, on to today's excerpt. Let's have a look. Because in this, let me just get this set up. So, because in this next section of the book, Bauer turns his attention to the Invictus Games, an initiative that has long been associated with Prince Harry's public identity, as we know it, and his charitable work. So let me share this with you. Much of the excerpt from Bauer's book focuses on the Invictus Games and how, as he claims, the Duchess of Sussex has harnessed the event for her own personal gain, and how Harry and Meghan have had difficult personalities around event organizers. Bauer writes, Meghan needed a global stage for genuine admiration and cheering fans. To her good fortune, Harry agreed that she could star at the Invictus Games, which he was about to open in Canada. Just before flying up to Vancouver in a private jet, she alerted her Instagram followers. How should we address them? The Canadian organizers asked. Meghan insists on ma'am, and Harry should be called sir, replied Nick Booth, the chief executive of the Games at the time. This excerpt also highlights purported internal worries, including those voiced by former Invictus Foundation chief Dominic Reed, that sport and competitors were being eclipsed and that the games had morphed into the Harry and Meghan show. It points to poor event attendance and alleges crowd padding for the benefit of cameras, as well as suggesting that competitors and their families were being overshadowed by meticulously orchestrated photo ops. With the 2027 Invictus Games set to take place in Birmingham, the book claims that Harry has long plotted to have his father, King Charles, open the Games, which would dominate media cycles and be a public declaration of their reconciliation. However, Bauer writes that the Games are likely not immune to protests, making King Charles's potential appearance a huge gamble for the monarch. The author writes, considering all the damning words and lies spoken and written by the Sussexes against the royal family since 2021 and the enormous damage caused by the Sussexes' exploitation of their royal titles, the chance of the king irritating the prince and princess of Wales to please the Sussexes is in spring 2026 remote. For the king to publicly meet his son and his troublemaking daughter-in-law, both guilty of betraying the royal family, is a gamble with little upside. The feud embroiling them is far from resolution, and it remains to be seen what damage the 2027 Invictus Games will inflict on an already fragile family. And it ends there. So I think it becomes important to quickly reflect upon what the Invictus Games were originally about, right? Because this was a platform originally conceived to honor wounded servicemen, as I understand it, and women, and also athletes who had faced extremely profound physical and emotional challenges, and some even went on to rebuild their lives through sport. So, for many observers, I think that the Games remain one of Prince Harry's most admired contributions. But I think Bauer raises a provocative claim here, and this is that spotlight surrounding the event may at times perhaps shifted away from competitors and more towards the personalities associated with it. Yeah, wink, wink, guess who, right? And to me, I think this raises an interesting question about celebrity um, versus advocacy, right? And you find that in some instances, high profile figures can bring enormous attention to charitable causes, yet the same attention can sometimes blur the line between the cause and the celebrity. And to this end, supporters might argue that visibility helps the games reach much wider audiences. And then on the other hand, you might have those critics that will ask whether the focus risks shifting away from the athletes themselves. And I think that tension between the advocacy and the public image is central to Bauer's critique here. But I also think that the Invictus story doesn't quite end there. because Bauer also suggests that, I'm just trying to remember, he suggests that the 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 games could become part of a much larger royal narrative, is what I'm getting, and one involving the possibility of reconciliation within the royal family. Because, I mean, if we just go to the quotation here about Harry plotting, yeah, it says here, with the 2027 Invictus Games set to take place in Birmingham, the book claims that Harry has long plotted to have his father open the games, right? So for me, based on this, if the king were to appear at the Invictus Games in Birmingham in 2027, I think that such a moment could likely carry very powerful symbolism, because, again, royal appearances often communicate a message beyond words, is the point I'm trying to drive home. And a shared public stage between father and son could be interpreted uh, by many as a sign of reconciliation, or at least a willingness to move forward. Yet, as Bauer suggests, it can also carry risks, because um, the divisions within the royal family have been widely discussed in public, and any appearance together would inevitably be scrutinized and interpreted from different angles. So, for the monarchy, where symbolism and stability are central, such decisions are rarely simple, right? So, I mean, I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this one. And on that note, I want to now move on to the BioLens score before we close, right? So based on I want to just put this up on the screen. So based on the excerpts we've explored in this series, I want to share my provisional rating of Betrayal. For research, I will give it a 4 out of 5, because I do feel that Tom Bauer has built his reputation on investigative biography, and the book itself is heavily sourced and researched. For balance, I will give it 2 or 3 out of 5. I do feel, as I've indicated at the outset, when I started the series, that the tone of the excerpts I've explored is clearly very critical, which may lead some readers to question whether multiple perspectives were, in fact, fully represented. You might disagree with me on that one, and you are welcome to. And then on storytelling, I will give it a 4.5 out of 5, because whatever one's view of the arguments, obviously the narrative is undeniably dramatic and compelling based on these excerpts. And now I am very curious to hear from you. Using the Biography Lens Score, based on the criteria research, balance, and storytelling, I would love to hear your rating of Betrayal. And you can give each category a score out of 5 in the comment section. And I'll be reading this with great interest. Thank you very much for joining me. And in the bonus episode, we will step back from the details of the book and reflect on the larger themes it raises about biography, public life, and the enduring fascination with the modern monarchy.